Hey everybody, it's Lo and welcome back to my channel, Love Without Limits. In this video, I'm going to share some tips on how to balance your blood sugar, plus my review of Glucose Revolution. So if you want to see that, then just keep watching. As someone that's really into health and nutrition and wellness and just super attainable tips, when I heard of this book, Glucose Revolution, I was super excited to read it. So I just finished it and just wanted to share a review and some new things that I've learned. As somebody that is into health and nutrition, a lot of the first part of the book, breaking down what blood sugar is and blood glucose levels and insulin, wasn't too new for me. But of course, if you're not somebody who loves to spend their free time reading different health things and looking at different studies, then a lot of this will be new information that she really breaks down in a way that's easy to understand, easy to digest, some may say, for anybody who's new to these topics. It's also a super quick and easy read, at least in my opinion. And for anyone new to these topics, reducing your blood sugar and reducing the amount of glucose spikes you have is super important because it helps you reduce cravings. It reduces the amount of fat that you gain from storing this excess glucose on your body. It also helps reduce your risk of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and diabetes, and all of those health outcomes are super important to me. And on a more day-to-day level, having stable blood glucose levels helps you feel more energized, gives you a clearer mind, and will help you lose weight as well. Alongside blood sugar and blood glucose levels is insulin, and insulin is a hormone that's released by our pancreas every time we eat in order to get the glucose out of our bloodstream and into different parts of our bodies. The bigger your blood glucose spike based on what you ate, then the more insulin will be released in order to get it out of your bloodstream and help bring that glucose spike down, because you can't just live at this high level all the time. It does go in waves, and on the down is because the insulin is taking it back. But when you have too much insulin going out there because you're constantly snacking or you constantly have these blood glucose spikes, then that can lead to pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes. But even without a diagnosis of pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes, if you're not in that range, even people with normal levels still experience these big spikes, which do have different health consequences. Now, something new that I learned from the book is that by reducing your blood sugar spikes, you're also reducing the free radicals in your body and therefore reducing oxidative stress. Free radicals are essentially electrically unbalanced cells that bump into other cells in your body, causing damage, which is called oxidation. And when you think of oxidation in terms of things in the outside world, you might think of rust. And while your body isn't literally getting rusty, oxidation does lead to signs of aging and will make you more susceptible to getting sick. And while the main focus is blood glucose, since that's what can easily be tracked, she does also mention fructose and how fructose is actually even more of a contributor to oxidative stress and free radical damage in your body. Fructose can be found alongside glucose, but while glucose comes from really any carb that isn't fiber, fructose is something that is essentially straight sugar and doesn't have anything else to kind of balance it out. So those spikes, while not seen on a continuous glucose monitor, are hidden behind and typically are a little bit bigger, and again do cause more damage than just glucose alone. This also goes into why it isn't good to be constantly snacking, because after you eat, your body goes into a postprandial state that lasts for hours after you finish your food. And when your body is in this state, it can't really do anything else. Our insulin, inflammation, and oxidative stress are increased, while our immune system and any other hormonal regulations get decreased because your body is busy digesting and dealing with everything that's happening. The length of the state does vary on what was just eaten and whether it was made of fats, proteins, carbs from fiber, or carbs full of glucose and fructose. But no matter what, if we just continuously eat, we never give our body the chance to relax, to turn over cells, to boost our immune system, to lower inflammation, and to do all of the other things that it needs to do. So not only by lessening our spikes, but by increasing the space between our meals, we're able to allow our body to relax and to not have to worry about digesting all the time. And this also does allow for more cell autophagy, which is the turnover of old, dead, unneeded cells. That way new, fresher ones can take its place. Allowing for more space between your meals also allows your body to not just use the energy of the meal that you just ate, but rather you can tap into your fat stores of previous meals and you pull out that excess glucose that you had stored and use that fat for energy, therefore burning fat. Now back to the book. Again, super well written, and I think everybody would get a lot of information out of it. I actually think I'm going to let my mom borrow it next, and she also loves reading health and nutrition books too. And in this book, she does give 10 different tips on how you can lower your blood glucose spikes. And I think these 10 tips are not only amazing because they're super easy to do, but they're things that you can add in simple ways that you can change how you eat. So instead of changing what you eat, it's not a diet book. She's not saying to cut anything out, just how you go about eating in order to reduce your blood glucose spikes, which again have so many other benefits for your body. And these tips are also free. I don't think anything cost anything, which is great because when tips are inexpensive and attainable, more people are willing to do it. And I think that's what's more important, is that people are willing to try it versus being like, that's too hard, or that's too expensive, and just not giving it a try at all. And while she does reference some studies, a lot of her data does come from her personally wearing a continuous glucose monitor and other people around her that she checked their continuous glucose monitors after eating certain things. So while it is quantitative data from her continuous glucose monitor and she was able to look at that and experiment with herself, I do wish that she was able to maybe get like a small unofficial study of like 20 or so people to see how it affects different people, because different foods affect people differently and these hacks may affect people differently too. And while they're all shown to lower blood glucose levels, I think just having more data points and reaching out to more people to see these hacks would definitely be interesting. And personally, I would also love to try out a continuous glucose monitor to see how they would affect me and how different foods affect me personally, but they're expensive. So I personally don't have any objective data points to go off of when trying out different foods or different tips, but there are some studies in the book to back up what she's saying, and I just think it's super important to try it out for yourself. And if you are able to try out a continuous glucose monitor, I think just having more data to back that up and how things affect you, it would be a super important and really cool thing to look at. Now, one thing I loved was how much fiber was discussed. So as I've said a million times, I'm gonna say it one more time, but we don't get enough fiber when we eat the standard American diet. Again, we need about 25 grams for women, even more for men, and on average we're getting like 8. So definitely need to up our fiber. And not only is fiber good because it just helps get everything moving and it keeps you satiated, but she showed that eating fiber also just helps lower blood glucose spikes overall. She recommends eating fiber-filled foods at the start of every meal in order to almost like coat its way down, and so everything afterwards does not create as big of a glucose spike. So this can be done. One of the tips is to, when you have your plate of food, eat the foods with the fiber, those veggies first, and then go to other things like the fats, the proteins, and then whatever your starchy, more carby vegetable or side is. And that's a really good tip if that's something you want to do, is eat like piece by piece. But to me, that seems a little ridiculous to just eat the broccoli first and then just eat something else. And while that is the better way to do it in terms of reducing blood glucose spikes, it makes dinner a little bit boring when you're just eating one thing at a time. Sometimes you have to save the best bite for last, and that might be something that's out of order. So another tip, and something that I personally enjoy, is to just include a small salad before your meal, especially if your meal is going to be something super carb heavy. By having a salad at the start, it helps fill you up so you're not eating as much during the meal itself, and you're getting that fiber in, you're getting your greens in. Sometimes the salad's gonna have a bunch of other colors in, so you're getting your colors, and it's just a really good way to fill up on the vegetables first before going into everything else for dinner without having to break your dinner apart ingredient by ingredient. Another tip that I really liked for snacks or meals that can't be eaten piece by piece is what she calls putting clothes on your carbs, which means not eating naked carbs. And you might think, well, what is that? So if you just have carbs alone, you just eat the bread, you just eat the rice, your blood glucose spike will be much bigger than if you put something that has a fat or a protein with it. So examples of this is, instead of toast, put avocado on toast. It will help lower your blood glucose spike even if you can't buy a house in the future because of it. Or if you're going to have rice, putting some beans and some other meat with that as well. You can put smoked salmon on a bagel, almond butter on a rice cake, or eat some eggs and bacon with your hash brown. So there's so many different ways to do this by just including a fat and or a protein on what or with whatever carb that you are going to enjoy, which just means you get to eat more food, you have more flavor, and a smaller glucose spike. And the last tip I'm a fan of is working out after you eat. That way your muscles can use all this glucose that's floating around instead of it being shuttled away to different parts of your body or becoming fat. And what's great about this in different studies that she referenced is that you don't have to finish eating, finish chewing your last bite, and then instantly go on a run. You actually have up to 70 minutes in order to make a difference. So of course, if you do it 10, 15, 20 minutes after your meal, it will make a bigger difference as the spike hasn't gone all the way up yet than if you wait a full 70 minutes. But just having that extra window makes it more approachable and easy to do. Instead of being able to be like, okay, I'm gonna finish eating and then I'm gonna go on a walk, you can say, you know what, I'm gonna finish eating and then I was gonna work out an hour from now anyway. So it just kind of gives you a bit more time in order to reduce that overall spike. And it also doesn't have to be super intense workout. It can be a walk. It can be just doing some body weight squats for 30 reps. So it doesn't even take more than a few minutes. Or what I like to do after dinner is I always clean up, and just doing that alone, you're up, you're moving, you're putting dishes away, and that's your muscles using the glucose instead of just sitting down to instantly watch TV and they become fat. And as you may know, I'm a big fan of resistance training, but she actually mentioned a study showing that if you work out now, you can have an up to 35% reduce in your glucose spikes for the next 24 hours. So get a nice resistance training workout in, do some squats, all your spikes will be lower for an entire day afterwards, on top of all the other benefits of resistance training, of course. Those are my 3 favorite tips, but there are some other ones in there, like having vinegar before your meals, having a savory breakfast instead of a sweet one to just set you up properly for the rest of the day, as well as having your sweet treat as a dessert after your meal instead of on its own without anything else to help lower that spike. She also talks about how calories aren't the enemy, and calories act differently within your body based on whatever source they came from, which I completely agree with. Yes, a calorie is a calorie in the sense of that's how much energy you're getting from a food, no matter what the food is. But I completely agree when a calorie from protein acts a lot differently in your body than a calorie from a carb. So not demonizing calories and saying that one thing might be more calories than the other, but looking at where it's coming from and the ingredients behind it and the impact that that will have on your body. She also talks a lot about nutrition labels and how to read them and how to look out for glucose spikes when shopping. And if you want to learn more about nutrition labels too, I have an entire video from a while back that I'll link down below where I go through the entire nutrition label and how to read it to get the best nutrition bang for your buck. Overall, I really enjoyed Glucose Revolution, and I also think it's a great read for anybody that is interested in just taking their health into their own hands without having to do any drastic changes or diet. It also is important for more people to learn about stabilizing blood glucose levels just for their overall health, as well as dispelling any myths of the constant need to snack and why you feel fatigued at 3 p.m. every day. By learning that and stabilizing them on your own by incorporating some or all of these tips, you can feel so much better without feeling like you constantly need to snack or like your blood sugar is low, so that's why you need to eat again, and just feeling better overall without having to do any major changes. So there you have it. Those are my key takeaways on how to balance your blood sugar. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, comment down below what tips are your favorite and what else you want to see here on my channel. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe. I upload a new video every Wednesday. So until the next one, thanks for watching.